Okay, hello everyone. My name is Hyung-soo, and I'm very excited to share the story of my team's journey of promoting inclusive design to help people with disabilities gain their independence and confidence. Just like many other entrepreneurs, our journey started with a question. And the question that triggered our journey was this: what time is it now? A question, probably a question that you ask the most throughout the day. So when it started when I was a graduate student, and one of my classmates was blind, and whenever I sat next to him, he had to poke me and whisper to me to ask the time. And as it happened over and over again, I questioned, why does he have to ask me? This is 21st century. And then I quickly realized that all the watches and clocks that I use or we see require vision. Maybe that's why we call it a watch. So I looked at him, and he was wearing a watch, and it was a digital watch. So I wondered how he uses it. So after the class, I asked him about the watch, and it is this one. It turned out it's a talking watch. You press a button, and it speaks out the time out loud. Obviously, he couldn't use this during the class because it's audibly disruptive, and everyone knows that you're checking time, which can be quite embarrassing. So I asked him, is there any other options? And the next day, he brought me a different watch. So it looks like a regular analog watch, but you can open the cover glass to touch the hands. But he said, well, I can't really use this because whenever I touch the hands, they either move or they break because it's so fragile. I was quite surprised to learn that these are the two main options they have. And people say, well, they can use smartphones with an earphone. But for them, being able to hear what's happening around them is so important that having the earphone plugged into ear all the time is not a very good solution. So I said, well, it's time to solve the problem. So I put together a team with MIT engineers. And the goal was to make a Braille watch for the blind. It will have the Braille display. And we worked really hard over a couple of months. And when we had the concept prototype ready, we had a meeting with 50 blind individuals. And we were very excited, pumped up. And we entered the room and we introduced ourselves. And one person raised his hand and asked, Hyung-soo, well, that's a good idea. But do you know how many of us can read Braille? I said, well, I never looked up the number, but if not all of you, maybe 8, 9 out of 10 of you can read Braille. He said, well, 8, 9 out of 10 of us cannot read Braille. Are you surprised? I was surprised. I doubted what I heard. It was true. Only 10 to 20% of the blind people can read Braille. It's because many of them become blind at the later stage of their lives, due to a disease or wound caused by the war. But I didn't know that. So that was strike one. Another person then raised his hand and said, well, I can read Braille, so let me ask you a different set of questions. These are the questions they ask after. How big is it? We don't like big, chunky stuff. What material is it made out of? Well, we don't like things that are made out of materials that feel cheap, like plastic. And next question, what color is the strap? And me just standing there thinking, who are these people? I thought they are blind. I thought they cannot see. But then I became really embarrassed to realize that I wrongly assumed that they would care mostly about the functionalities, but much less about the looks. Why did I assume positive correlations between not being able to see and not wanting to look good? They wanted to look good, just like everyone else. So that was strike two. And the next question was, well, is it designed for the blind only? And I said yes. and expected a positive response this time because we all like special limited editions that only we have. But they said, "Hyungsoo, you got it wrong again. What we want is we want to wear a watch that everyone wants to wear. The label, designed for the blind, it focuses on their disabilities. It builds a wall around them. It separates them." I never thought about that. So there was strike 3, and we are out. And after the meeting, literally, our concept prototype went into a trash bin. We were trying to build something that we thought they needed, but it was completely different from what they actually wanted. We were building something out of the misconceptions and stereotypes that we had on them. We were extremely discouraged. But they didn't stop after only criticizing our work. They reached out back to me. She was amazing. They said, "Hyungsoo, if you want to create something for us, why don't you invite us to work with your designers?" It made sense. So I put together a team again, but this time, not just with the engineers and designers, but people with all different backgrounds, abilities, and disabilities. And the goal was to make a watch that looks cool, so everyone would, regardless of your ability, disabilities, they would like it, and yet it is accessible to the blind. So, and while we're doing it, we realized that sighted people were excited about a watch that would allow them to check time without having to look at the watch. Situations like meetings, interviews, dinner with the in-laws, which I found really extremely useful. Blind people were excited because they were part of the design process. They were included and they felt connected. So this is how it turned out. Time is indicated by 2 ball bearings. One rotating on the surface indicates minute. A second ball bearing rotating on the side of the watch indicates the hour. So you can either see them or touch them to check time. And the hour markers are raised as well to help you telling time. Thank you. And we named it the Bradley timepiece. We call it timepiece, not a watch, because you don't have to watch this to tell time. And we named it after former Navy Lieutenant Bradley Snyder. He lost his vision completely in Afghanistan 2011. He was serving as a bomb diffuser. There was an explosion. But after his injury, he persevered, learning how to thrive in a world that was not built for the blind, but not letting his blindness build a wall around him. He competed in the Paralympics the following year in swimming. And the same day he lost his vision, he won his first gold medal. And now, in Rio in 2016, he set a world record. And since then, we have won many internationally renowned design awards, such as IF Design Awards, German Design Awards, Red Dot. And we are proud to say that it's one of the most recent permanent collections at the British Museum in London. I'm not here to brag about my team's work. I'm trying to brag about all the people who were neglected before in design process. And this is what you can accomplish when you include people who are often ignored in design process. They push you to think out of the box, design unique products, and you can also win the mainstream market. And now, a portion of our sales proceeds go to supporting these 2 amazing organizations that work really hard to improve the independence and confidence of the blind community. The Seeing Eye is the oldest guide dog school in the world, and Kilimanjaro Blind Trust, they help blind children in East Africa improve their Braille literacy by providing braillers, Braille papers, and teaching them how to read and write in Braille. And so this is, and we launched through a crowdfunding campaign, and our goal was $40,000, and we were successfully raised close to $600,000. We had over 4,000 supporters from 45 different countries. And the reason that we are really happy about it's not just the funding amount, but the fact that more than 95% of the supporters who purchased our timepiece, they were sighted. And they purchased it because they found our design unique, beautiful, and inclusive. So this is why I'm trying to encourage all of you, not just designers and engineers, to think about the inclusive design. People think that it is just something nice to have, or it's a luxury to have. But to me, it is a must. Think about what's happening now in the world. Look at all the cool, awesome electronic gadgets we have. No doubt, they're awesome, cool, very helpful, but they all started using touch screen panels. So if you cannot use them, if you cannot see them, you cannot use them. Even like vending machines, microwave, ovens, remote control, everything. So people who are blind, who are interviewed, when they need something, instead of going to regular stores, they have to go to the junkie store to find the outdated products, because it comes with big knobs and buttons they can fill. But even those are disappearing quite quickly. So they are left out now with an option, which is to wait for the big electronics companies to come up with the limited editions and give them out for free. Or it's so expensive, it's practically impossible to purchase them without government subsidies or charity donations. What's more devastating is kids who are blind grow up with it, getting so used to receiving things for free, receiving help all the time, unnecessarily. They lose their confidence and independence. And it further reinforces the stereotypes and misconceptions that people with disabilities are helpless, they are less capable, which is, by the way, absolutely not true. They just have different way of doing things. So I hope that we can encourage more people, again, not just the designers and engineers, to think more about the inclusive design, because it can significantly help people who are different, people with disabilities, gain their independence and confidence back. Thank you.